Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Podcast. Fitz and Cole and Gills all together again. It's like old times. And we intended to do kind of a more generic podcast, not sports specific, but what's the questions I liked were about basketball season. Now that it's wrapped up on both men's and women's fronts, we'll get into that a little bit. Got a question hidden in the back pocket here for a VIP version of this. We'll get to that. And of course, that shows up a separate file at GoPowercat exclusively for our VIPs. But let's just get into it, boys. Hope you're feeling good. You look good. Man, you guys look
our colors are all very different for those.
I know. All of our cameras are like, I'm going to be skin toned and I'm going to be white. Let me see here. Where are my banners? Here we go. And of course, it wouldn't be a Powercat podcast without this cat, El Camino cat, with another good one. Was all the chalk in this year's NCAA tournament a sign of a significant change in the landscape of the sport or a one-year anomaly? I kind of addressed this in my daily delivery today, boys. And there's only one way to know if it's a one-year anomaly is if it happens again, it wasn't a one-year anomaly. So you got to wait a year to find out. But give me your thoughts. Do you think this is portal related, NIL related, or just a year where the number one seeds were obvious and better?
Go ahead, Cole.
Well, thanks for putting me on the spot, young man.
Welcome back. Yep.
Thank you. So I saw a stat today, guys, and the only school who had 25% or less roster retention that's in the NCAA tournament is Duke. Everybody else, I think they were like 24%, was the guys of the minutes who were on the team last year. Everybody else, I want to say it's like over 50 or 60% is of returning players, of returning minutes are in the Final Four. I hope I'm making sense there.
Yes, you
Basically, the teams that stayed together made the Final Four with the exception of Duke. They have some newcomers, and a lot of that can be contributed to the number one player in the freshman class in Cooper Flagg, along with some of their other stud freshmen. So I don't think anybody was too surprised. So to answer El Camino Cat's question, I don't think it has anything to do with NIL. I don't think it has anything to do with the transfer portal. I think it is more of a one-year anomaly. And I know you guys might disagree with me on that. And I would honestly love for you to disagree with me on that. Ooh. Because I do think that this is just the four best teams in college basketball. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if anybody was that close. I mean, you go and you look at some of these games that these teams have played in the tournament, and it's like, okay, maybe Auburn. If I were to do a power ranking and ranking the four teams, I would probably put Auburn fourth. But Houston, I mean, they were close against Purdue, but it shouldn't have been. Purdue played out of their mind. Houston didn't even play that well. We saw what happened in the Elite Eight when Houston played well. So, yeah, I think these are the four best teams in college basketball, and I don't think it has anything to do with the transfer portal because these teams don't use a transfer portal.
Okay.
I was Fran Fraschilla on X put out a nice little tweet today, and it kind of dawned on me. He said the transfer portal, it really opens November 5th when the season starts. It's obviously not official until March 20, whatever it was. But, if you're a guy that plays, I don't know, like 12 minutes a game and you're expecting to be in the rotation more, like right then and there, you might as well just make up your mind and know that you're leaving. And now, obviously, there's ebbs and flows in a season. But, and some guys, don't get me wrong, there are some guys that probably get done with the season, talk with the coaches, take a look in the mirror, take a look at kind of the pieces around them, right? Talk with family, agents, all that stuff, their camp. And maybe you do make a decision after the season, but guys, there's just so many players. Like RJ Luis is a great example. I don't know what happened there with St. John's, but anybody listening to this knows that there was tension. Something wasn't right. Rick Pitino benched him in a second round game of the tournament against Arkansas. He is by far the best player on that team, and he's in the portal. I guess it took him a couple days to get in there, but I just think probably one of the biggest issues is guys have, and coaches too, coaches obviously, and there's some that are maybe more behind the scenes, but then you look at Will Wade in NC State, there's some that are public as well. Coaches, players, people have their minds elsewhere and not focused on, I'm sure that they want to win, right? You're going to give it your all no matter what, even if you're leaving, but you know what, in the back of your mind, I think that certainly has something to do with it, man. And that's more portal related than NIL related, but there is absolutely the argument to be made that, those mid-major teams can't keep talent the way that they used to because of NIL, and it goes hand in hand.
That's where I was going to go, Gills. It's a great point. I don't know that the number one seeds advancing were because of these things. I think it's just because these were the best teams, and these are really good teams. They're well constructed and well coached. But I agree with Gills. I think the era of the Cinderella is over. You can't retain players at the kind of rate you need to make it to a Final Four if you're a mid-major. Unless a mid-major comes around and has a big donor that's able to pay and keep up with the Joneses. I mean, I guess you could take that approach. But now I think when you've got a successful mid-major player, and we're seeing it, there's a guy on campus from Omaha. And it's why would they go back, I guess is what I'm saying. They could make money, play on a bigger stage, play in a bigger conference, and thus probably go deeper in the NCAA tournament than they could. You look at the movement of the FAU coach, and he's got players still playing in this tournament. The FAU team that beat Kansas State, went to the Final Four. Some of those dudes are now on these teams. So it's been an amazing transformation, but I think we saw these four teams advance simply because they're the best. Mm-hmm. And maybe there is some consolidation of power there that we'll further understand in the future. But I think the consolidation of power isn't with the top 4 or 5 or 6 schools. It's with the top 3 conferences, 4 conferences, depending on how you look at it. And I think that's really going to have a huge impact on smaller schools. And it's really unfair to them and unfortunate.
But Fitz, real quick before you go to the next one, you were talking about, guys leaving and it's very tough and they're going to be gone. This is a lot easier said than done, but look at Bennett Sturts, look at Hudgens that played at Northwestern Missouri State. You have to find players that are so dang loyal to that head coach, right? Now I know that Division II is different than a mid-major, and also who's to say Bennett Sturts doesn't go transfer to a power program if McCollum stays there? But I think there's a good argument that he stays with McCollum no matter what, because there's loyalty there, right? And that is, like I said, a lot harder to do than just go, a lot easier said than done, but you got to find guys that are loyal. And that's probably the only way that you can make that work as a mid-major, because money, winning minutes, all that stuff, the grass might very well be greener.
Or just be a really good basketball coach like Dusty May was for Florida Atlantic. I mean, I don't necessarily think – I think to answer the question, guys, the reason why these teams are in the Final Four is because these are the 4 best teams, and they were just that much better than everybody else. But the reason why there wasn't as many upsets in the NCAA tournament is really what we're talking about, and it is. Fitz, it is. You're exactly right. It's because those players, they stay for 1 or 2 years, and when they have their one shining moment, if it's in the NCAA tournament or not, they are going to take advantage of it.
Yep. It's not good for basketball. But it's going to make the power conferences even more powerful because they can just buy all the best players. Ooh, that's no fun. Next one up. It's way too long. I didn't check this. Will we ever be able to compete with the toughness and grit and talent, and not just compete with overtake the likes of Houston, Tech, Iowa State? This one is from. It didn't even copy all the way. Man, wow, that's what I get for Russian.
No names.
This is a shoddy podcast. Let me pull it up, boys.
While you find that, I'm going to push back on part of the question. I think Houston, absolutely overtaking a program like that, but Texas Tech and Iowa State, yes, that kind of sets the standard for what Jerome Tang and his staff want to do. But, the gap between Houston and the rest of the league, I think Houston's the only team you can include in this question, in my opinion.
I agree. K-State Kyle asked the question. I think you're exactly right. I think Houston has now separated itself in a way that Kansas did at one point. And Kelvin Sampson, I hope he doesn't retire, guys. I mean, if he wins a national championship, people are talking about him possibly retiring. He's so good for the Big 12. He sets that standard. The conference needs that standard. But the answer is not in the short period. You don't build a program of Houston's standing with a recruiting class or 2 or even 3. I mean, he got here over more than 10 years at Houston. Did you realize he'd been there that long? That's how long this building process has taken. And over the last, half of that, he's really taken off. So can they get there? Yeah. Is this the staff to do it? I don't know, but there's no ceiling topper. There's no ceiling on K-State in men's basketball. There isn't. They can be as good as they want to. And I think that's the underlying frustration fans have, is it's almost like a self-inflicted expectations ceiling or something of that nature, where you can't quite get the right players. It's there, folks. You can get there, but you only get to those cultural standings of a Houston program, or what Kansas was and now is greatly in peril, by having that culture built in from class to class to class passed on. This could be the start of that process, but the process will take at least 3 years, if not 5. And so, yeah, I mean, it's possible, but boys, I don't see it happening, because even on top of everything I just said, it's incredibly difficult to do it, even for great coaches, to try to get that culture built in where the expectations are just passed down from recruiting class to recruiting class, and you keep building. And also, to go with that, you've got to have systems so structured and understood by the players that they slide in and out of it. And, you just kind of keep going. That's what Houston does.
So there's such a thing as a tier list. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Nick Wright. Obviously, he is on Fox Sports 1. He's a big Chiefs guy. I know Ryan Gilbert loves the Chiefs and probably loves Nick Wright. But Nick Wright does this thing every week on his show where he talks about tiers. He has tiers for NFL teams. And every week he always has the Chiefs as like the top team in the NFL. And it's kind of a joke. It's like a joke to put them up there. But it's legit, right? So like Houston is the Chiefs. They are the Chiefs. They are better than everybody else. If Nick Wright was making this list,
how come hang on now? Who won the Super Bowl this year, Cole?
Okay, well, it's a metaphor. You got to appreciate my metaphors when they come. Either way, my point is this: Houston is in a class of its own. Can K-State catch up to them? As you said, it's going to take some work, but can they be in that next tier by as soon as next season? There's absolutely no reason why they can't be. I mean, look what Texas Tech did, guys. In 2 years, Grant McCasland took them to an Elite Eight, had them a few minutes away from a Final Four, and has some legit dudes on that team. And so, yeah, it's very doable. Can K-State consistently be in that tier where they are competing for a conference championship? That's all. That's the only question that we're asking, right? I put this on our message boards, but like at the end of the day, the only fan base that's happy is the fan base of the team that wins the last game of the season. Everybody else is not going to be happy. So can K-State put themselves into position to compete for a Big 12 championship year after year? You look what Texas Tech has done. Look what Iowa State has done. There's no reason you can't. Those schools are all extremely comparable to K-State, and K-State probably is in better shape as far as NIL goes and some of those other aspects than those programs. So, yeah, to answer your question, there's no reason that they can't do it. Now, will they do it? We'll have to wait and see. But there's no woe is me, right? K-State can do it. It's just a matter of if they're going to be able to.
This all comes down to player evaluation, talent evaluation out of your high school recruits. That is ultimately what this comes down to. If you want to get like Houston, you have to hit on those guys. Xavier Wilson, Ashton McGee, you have to hit. Now, it's probably not promising right now because just objectively speaking, they're not highly rated guys, but you're right, Cole. There's nothing that's saying they can't, right? Fitz, you mentioned that K-State fans are frustrated because they deserve better. They demand better. They've seen this program at such a high level. Missing the tournament back-to-back years is not where they're kind of expecting to be. So you've got to hit on those high school recruits, and obviously David Castillo. I just wrote a piece today about all of the players. It was painful to go back and Davion Bradford, Siri Lewis, like all these guys that played this year. Check that out and go Powercat soon. But Castillo, I think you can throw Moby in there. Anybody that you get that fits the mold of a younger player that you want to come in and grow, develop in your program, you just have to hit on those guys. And then you can bring in, right, a Coleman Hawkins for a year with some experience, some seniority, help out those guys. But when you have a bunch, Max Jones and Doug and all your playmakers are newcomers, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. You can't gel. So you've got to hit on those guys that you bring in. And, to be honest, right now, Kansas State hasn't, right? RJ Jones, Day-Day Ames left. Michaela Britch, we're recording this on Monday. See where that goes. You look at, Jarrell Colbert was a young guy, left. Cam Carter had a lot of eligibility left. He's gone. Frinister, again, he left. So you've got to hit on those guys, and they have to probably be okay with, bluntly put, probably redshirting, if not playing 5, 10, 15 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that's all they're ever going to be capable of, but early on, they have to understand that it's probably going to take time, especially in a program where you get old and stay old. So it all comes down to those high school players and maybe some of those younger guys that they might get out of the portal with a lot of eligibility left.
And the portal is open today. As we record this, it's not, but today when you're seeing this, it's April 1st. We suspect some of the pause in K-State action here is NIL payments at the start of the month. And we might see some guys moving now towards the portal. We'll find out. But I think they've got something to build on. And let me skip to the next question because it ties in here. Plus it fits on the screen. Kat in Colo. So is there a reason to be optimistic about men's basketball next year? Well, let me answer it this way, Kat in Colo. There's not a reason not to be. I mean, you can rebuild your team in 1 year and be in the tournament and be deep in the tournament. We've seen that. Now, maybe that's settled back with what we, discussed at the top, that these teams actually have some experience, but K-State did it year one. Maybe it was catching lightning in a bottle, but we just saw Arkansas struggle through much of the year, but make it to the Sweet 16. So those possibilities are out there, but we still haven't fully seen how this coaching staff, who's going to be on the coaching staff, which is another question. We assume there will be some changes, some guys leaving of their own accord. We don't know, though. But there's no reason to believe they can't construct a group. We just don't know exactly how they're going to go about it, how it's actually going to play itself out. Are they going to use 13 scholarships, 15 scholarships, 14 scholarships? Are they going to bring in more than 2 high school guys? Are they going to bring in a bunch of portal guys or a bunch of guys leaving? We don't know these things yet. And I think the more guys that come back, as long as you have enough space on your roster to add the needed pieces, interior and on the wing, as long as you've got some space to supplement with, if you bring back a core group of players, I think you're better off. I think they set the bar too high for staying at K-State. I think that was their mistake. They kept constantly thinking that they could upgrade over this guy and upgrade over that guy. And I'm not saying they didn't, but they upgraded over the version they had of him in the previous season. What I'm saying is they didn't have Day-Day Ames as a sophomore. So did they really upgrade by getting rid of him? I'd say no, they didn't. So I think that's something they're going to be more conscious of here.
The one thing that fans always talk about, and I know that our message boards have great conversation around this very topic, is players that stay at Kansas State and really just college basketball in general. Like, fans want to see that continuity. Like, there's something to be said for seeing a kid come in as a freshman and then seeing him kiss the Powercat at center court in his final home game. Right. As a fan, you've gone on that journey with them. You've seen them grow and develop. You've seen them talk to the media when they were freshmen. And then you've seen them talk to the media crying after their last game at the NCAA tournament. And you can feel some sort of an emotional connection with that player. And that's what makes college athletics great, is because it's not like pro sports where, you can see one guy with the same team for 10 years. You see him for 4 years and then you follow them the rest of their career. But they're always going to be a part of your program. Well, fans, this is my question. Do you want that? Or do you want guys who can come in and turn your program around? Because right now, K-State, if they want to go the developmental route, every once in a while, you're going to have down years. Unless you turn into the Houstons of the Big 12, there are going to be years where you're not as good. Literally, look at what's going on with Kansas. That's exactly what's going on with them. And so you're going to have down years if you try and continue that continuity, because inevitably you won't hit on every single class. That's just not how it works. But if you hit on more classes than you don't, then you will build some of that continuity and you will turn into a developmental program. So do you want to, as a lot of people talk about, have paid mercenaries, or do you want to see the younger players struggle, go through those growing pains and come out of them on the other side as better players? I don't know the answer to that question. I think I know what the staff wants. But to answer your question, is there a reason to be optimistic? Absolutely, because they went through those growing pains this year, and you have to hope that next year they won't.
Going off of that, man, this is where I was going to go, Cole. You kind of hit it on the head, but Barry, Dean, and Cam won 5 Big 12 games that freshman year, and then a year later they're in the NCAA tournament. They win the play-in game, right? So if Kansas State, after a 5-win season, if Bruce Weber just decided to cut them loose or let them transfer, whatever, and bring in a bunch of new guys, you're going to be back at square one. So how big of a leap can you take? Obviously, we'll wait and find out. But yeah, continuity, guys. If you get consistency and guys returning, man, they're going to get better, right? As long as a core group stays, they're going to get better. Just how much, obviously, is the question.
Okay. Let's get to this, and doesn't mess around with this question at all from KSU. Man, did the SEC deserve 14 teams in? Should the Big 12 expect an increase in revenue from basketball? This year isn't going to give you an increase. I mean, you had 2 Sweet 16s or 2 Elite 8s, I guess it was, and only one went to the Final Four. You're not going to see a bump. SEC is going to see a bump because they got so many free units by Oklahoma being overseeded or whatever. They, for all the talk they have about, they had 4 teams in the Elite 8 and 2 in the Final Four, and they had half the good teams. They also set a record for the most losses by a conference in a tournament. I mean, let's be honest. They had more chances to win. They also had more chances to lose, and their seeding, while possibly, appropriate, made them much tougher to beat because of their high seeding. So I don't think they deserve 14 in. I think their number was 12. But that they still were the best overall conference. But our argument is just like football. We don't argue that they don't have some, if not the best teams. We're just saying the whole conference isn't better than everyone. And that's kind of the perception now ESPN has cast out there about SEC basketball, that they're just better. Oklahoma could win the Big 12, but it's nonsense. It's nonsense. And we've seen that now. And unfortunately, the way the bracket sets up, we're going to have an SEC team in the final and a non-one. So we'll see if that carries over to Houston or, Duke winning a national championship coming off that side. I never thought I'd be in a position to cheer for Duke. But if they beat Houston, I think most people in the Big 12 would rather see Duke win this than an SEC team.
Riley Gates is smiling somewhere listening or watching this. You saying that about Duke, but no, if you win 6 games in your conference, no, absolutely not.
6 and 12.
Let alone the fact that the SEC plays 18 games. Big 10, Big 12 are playing 20. And so who's to say that it was Texas and OU, correct? Who's to say they wouldn't go 6 and
14?
14. Sorry, math hard. I know. So no, not at all. 12, yeah, Fitz. I agree, man. Is it the best conference? Yes. 12 teams, absolutely. I can get behind that, but 14, no. If you win 6 games, no.
And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but did we only end up having one all SEC matchup before the Final Four?
I think so.
Tennessee and Kentucky,
which
would have been in the Elite 8? No, it would have been in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many opportunities we would have had for that had those teams won. I mean, you get 14 teams in a tournament, you'd expect there to be more than one matchup between all SEC teams. So that says all I need to know, man. That says all I need to know. They underperformed. And to be completely honest, Arkansas saved the SEC's rear, because if Arkansas doesn't go on that run, we're all kind of looking around going, the good teams won and the bad teams lost.
Yep.
And it's just kind of how it is. I mean, it's kind of a footnote. But the fact that Arkansas did go on a little run, I think really helps the perception of the conference, because they did beat a Kansas team who, I think a lot of people expected to at least win the first game. But the real upset, I think, was the St. John's game. I don't think many people saw them win that game. So credit them. But yeah, to answer the question, no, they definitely did not deserve 14 teams in.
Well, tying this back to the topic earlier, with the lack of mid-majors advancing somehow in this weird world of college basketball, college sports in general, Arkansas, coached by John Calipari, became the Cinderella.
Yeah, literally.
I don't know how that worked out, but being a 10 seed that advanced, that's the best we had. Hall of Fame coach and a roster full of NIL talent. So there we go. That's the new era. Here's our last one for this part of the podcast. As I said, we'll have a VIP portion. I don't know how long that'll be. It's a really interesting question, but we'll get to that in a second. We'll tease what that question is. But here's our last of these. It's MBB, just for discussion. If the NCAA allows an extra bonus year of eligibility to student athletes, if they stayed at the same school for 4 years without getting into the portal, I'm intrigued by this. I think that this is interesting and a way to kind of push back at it. I think some schools might be tiering their revenue sharing payouts to be based on years of service at the school. So I don't know, but I like this idea of rewarding players that do stay. Like, give them something else other than a financial incentive that maybe that school can't match to keep them out of the portal. I don't know. How about this? We just give them a free degree from like Columbia. They just have one. Let's have some kind of degree. Here, you stayed 4 years. Since hardly anyone's probably going to class anymore since they're getting paid. Gills wouldn't. Gills doesn't go to class now. It's not in school. He doesn't go to class.
But I go to the rec and I go to the business building.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You pretend, kind of like a stalker hanging out with the students. What do you guys think about this?
Go ahead, Gilbert. I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, all I have to say is it maybe the NCAA's role is this the right way, I guess, for the NCAA to fix this portal issue? You might say yes, you might say no. I don't necessarily have a strong stance either way, but I'd probably say no. I get it. The portal is out of control. Something has to maybe happen, but this probably isn't the right way to try to fix this problem. Interesting point at MBB, but probably other ways that you can try to control this issue, if that makes sense.
And this would not be a basketball. My mind immediately went to baseball with this. My mind immediately went to women's basketball. My mind immediately goes to soccer, right? This rule would not be for men's basketball.
That's a good point, Cole. This would be more impactful on what we'd call non-revenue sports.
Right, because those guys who are guys and gals even, and throw softball in that mix, but mostly just the guys in men's basketball and football, they don't go to these schools to stay at these schools. They go to the schools to be there for a year if you're going to play college basketball, or to be there for 3 years if you're going to go play college football, and then go on to the professional ranks. Like, that's what their ultimate goal is. Like, as it should be, right? We all want to do better at our jobs. We all want to get promotions. The goal is to never be satisfied. And so I don't think you're getting athletes to stay for a school at 4 years and then, oh, hey, guess what? You get another one. Like, if they're there for an extra year, they want to go. They want to go somewhere else. And so even if they would get that extra year, you would think that they'd probably use it in the transfer portal to try and increase their value. But the reason why these kids go to these schools in the first place is to get out. As sad as that is, it's just the kind of the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, well, first of all, the NCAA needs to decide what it's doing here with I'm personally a fan of just getting rid of red shirts. Mm-hmm. You got 5 years. And, maybe this is the wrinkle in there that you can get that 5th year if you stay at the school. I don't know. I'm also in favor of kind of limiting medical hardships. I hate to be cold-blooded, but that's what the red shirt was for. And now we're giving them a bonus year. And if they we got 7th-year players, just one on the women's team this year. Between injuries and COVID, and it's craziness. She has a full-time job, basically, because she's just taking enough school to be eligible. It's an insanity what's going on here. I'd like to see them stabilize eligibility by just saying, hey, you got 5 years, period. If you get injured and you're under the 1/3 threshold, we can talk about it. But I think they got to the point with injuries. They just started handing out hardships left and right. It should just be, look, here's the threshold for each sport, 1/3 games. If you play in this or fewer, you can get your medical hardship. In fact, I'm fine with, at that point, just allowing them to redshirt. But yeah, I feel like if you redshirt, you don't get a hardship. If that's why that we have it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's frustrating. If you're a true freshman, right? Most of the time you're a true freshman, and you want a redshirt, or the staff, for your development and your growth, right? You should probably assume the risk that you're taking, that if you get injured later on in your career, you don't just get another free pass, right?
Right.
So I'm with you, Fitz.
Do you guys?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just gonna finish it with this. And I haven't looked at our extra question yet, but do you guys want to know how many games Nigel Pack has started in his collegiate basketball career?
105.
121 games over 5 seasons. And he has another year of eligibility and will be playing college basketball somewhere next year. 121 games over 5 years.
He's got to get it, granted, right?
Which it sounds like he will, but still. 121 games over 5 years. That's incredible.
But why would he get granted another year? This is my point.
Right.
COVID.
I thought we were going to get out of the COVID situation this year, and we still got players doing this. It's insanity. Well, that's it for this version of the podcast. We've got one more question, though. We'll go into VIP session. It sounds like we're a school board. We're going to go into executive session and discuss this. That will be available for our subscribers at Go Powercat at 24/7 only. And here's the question we'll be answering. Have you heard anything about revenue sharing percentages for the different teams? And that, of course, would be within K-State. Every school is going to be a little bit different. We're going to dig into that topic. Do we have hard and fast numbers? I'll be honest. No, we don't. We have suspicions. And that'll be part of what we answer with, is exactly how this will be laid out for everyone and how it'll come to pass and function for each school and how to be used at K-State to the benefit of the programs. That's it for this podcast. We'll be back next week with more podcasts and more information. Maybe we'll even have some spring football stuff later this week. I don't know, but spring football does start this week. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we have more to talk about. And we're done with this podcast. We'll see you, if you're a subscriber to Go Powercat, on the VIP side of this. If you're not, maybe you should be. Go check out that special by clicking that green join button. I'm Fitz, and we're out.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.